Hey everybody, this is Perch. Let's read this mail here. It says Harry Potter and the X-Men. All right, so why not? It says, Dear Perch, so I just finished the X-Men animated series, and I thought it'd be nice to discuss how I eventually got into the X-Men. Since I can remember, I've been a diehard Harry Potter fan. I feel old now, thank you. I grew up with the movies, played most of the games, and admittedly read the books in my late teens. It's one of the main reasons why I'm into fantasy in general. But it might surprise you that it's because of Harry Potter that I got into the X-Men. I didn't read comics till I was 20, but I grew up watching the movies. When my dad, who did read X-Men comics growing up, explained, oh, so it's like Harry Potter, but with superheroes. The reason why is because I saw similarities between the two, like mutants and wizards having to face problems for being different. It took me a while for me to realize this, but Harry Potter is basically mutants never revealed themselves, separated from the rest of humanity. I think I kind of wish Genosha wasn't destroyed because I think it would be a great way to see how mutant society was function. I think, just like with wizards, there would be prejudice among mutants. In Harry Potter, wizards are judged based on the family they come from, purebloods, half-bloods, and muggleborns, or whether or not they have magic powers. Squibs, I can definitely see mutants judging each other depending on family, powers, or appearance, even Magneto, despite him preaching on mutant brotherhood. Do you agree? I'd like to hear your thoughts. All right. So this is going to be just a fun video of being a comic fan here. There's lots of different directions, of course, you could take this. I do want to point out that there are a lot of people who would come into my shop who would say that they got into comics because of Harry Potter, and for exactly the same reason. It's like it's basically comics are Harry Potter, but with superheroes. And this would always really, really irritate older comic book fans who did not like their comic book stuff being compared to Harry Potter and the magical wizard land. But look, if you forget about comics and you forget about Harry Potter, and I also forget about the fact that every generation has something that they're really into that the generation before it thinks is stupid. I mean, if you were reading comics in the 80s, the boomer generation behind you didn't exactly heavily respect your reading choice. It's just, you can just put it that way. So it's not a huge surprise that comic book fans didn't respect Harry Potter. They'll say, hey, if you really want fantasy and you really want kind of OG superheroes, just go to superheroes directly. Why are you dealing with wizards in magical school land? I mean, what's going on there? But more often than not, I found that either A, fans of Harry Potter, or rather fans of the genre, the idea that, hey, there's a world here, we're going to do some, just general world building. Then we're going to get into, what might happen in a society of wizards, and there'll be good ones and bad ones, and they would fight each other, and kind of cliffhangers about parentage and drama and other things. All of that is inherent to comics. I mean, good comics have all those elements. They have the drama, and they have the goods and the bads and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it when done well, it's the same thing. And I know a lot of purists are out there like, how dare you compare comics to Harry Potter? But look, Harry Potter made, billions of dollars. It is successful. You can thumb your nose up at it. But, the reality is it caught the attention, the imagination of tons of people. And, I think that, quite frankly, I think people take the wrong lesson from Harry Potter who are comic creators. They kind of remember maybe the nostalgia of reading Harry Potter when they were kids, and now they're writing comics, and they forget about the fact that the comics kind of introduced a lot of these, Harry Potter introduced a lot of these characters, and then over time, it got more and more kind of deadly, characters getting killed, mentors and, godfathers and other things are getting murdered. I mean, it grew up. The series grew up along with, in many cases, the readers, which is why it was very successful. You look at comics and you go back and you look at the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby X-Men, and you compare it to the Mutant Massacre by Chris Claremont, you will see that the comics you read also grew up over time. Now, you might say, oh, yeah, but that was like 20 years, 60s to the 80s. Yeah, you should go back and check out the amount of time it took from Harry Potter 1 to Harry Potter 7. Again, you'll be surprised by the similarities. To me, it's just like the comic business often resembles the wrestling business. Good narratives of fantasy books, and Harry Potter was a very popular, good fantasy book, definitely has similarities into comics. there's a connection there. So now but now if we want to geek out about kind of the other part of all this is, you mentioned Genosha, and to me it's funny because I've thought the same thing quite often, that the X-Men comics actually did a pretty bad job of mining everything they could out of Genosha. What was weird about it is that we've seen lots of different pitches, lots of different concepts around the X-Men, but we haven't really seen the idea of kind of multiple classes and other things. And Genosha would have been a really great way to do that. You could also argue Krakoa was a good way to do that, but they were too busy bending over, sometimes not pun intended, to really take advantage of what they've got. Okay, you've got a mutant society, it's on an island, and the mutants are, immortal. So, it will pain a lot of you to hear it, but the idea that you could create an arena and mutants could basically fight each other to the death to be resurrected for the first time, that whole storyline was actually one of the more clever aspects of doing something with that island. Whatever you do, don't go back and look and see which writer came up with that. You'll not appreciate it, but it's true. The thing that's kind of wild about Krakoa is that you had this really good opportunity to have the mutants basically, they get everything they ever wanted. They've got their island. They can be brought back to life anytime. They want for nothing. It's paradise. They're the biggest drug dealers in the entire world. They can it's basically a paradise. And they went with the evil fascist humans in red hats and armor, messed up their entire vibe, man. They were just having their Met Gala again, and the big bad mutants came in and just screwed everything up. By the way, if you look at some of the more graceful X-Men stories, and by graceful I mean thoughtful, and you go look at kind of the Hellfire Gala like the last year, and I hate to beat up on him, but goddamn, Jerry Duggan, they has all the subtlety of a brick with a lot of these stories. Like it's not good. I don't know how checked out he is, but my God, there's somebody needs to do a wellness check on him. So he wrote better than this once upon a time. I promise you he did. Anyway, but the Krakoa era or Genosha, either one, could have basically said, okay, the mutants have their own society and everything they ever wanted. So what happens next? And basically do the fall, not with a bunch of AI robot hating clones that are mutant hating robot clones. Basically, people with no personalities, a bunch of grunts. The X-Men have been relegated by and large just fighting random grunts over the last 4 years. The last time you actually had something of a threat was that stupid Ten of Swords storyline. But you could have instead had the mutants become more and more kind of turn more to infighting amongst themselves, start to basically create their own classes of mutants. Now they're all invulnerable and all are living in the same place. Why can't we start to actually, not attack each other exactly, but start to, say that I'm a more impressive mutant than you are. And I mean, just there was stuff that could have been done there that I think was quite powerful if the writers would have been, excited and interested to do it. You could have created what happens when, mutant society has everything they ever want and then starts to turn on each other. And is it the invariable, there's a lot of interesting lessons and things you could have done. And so I feel like that whole era lost a lot. And so to your right, to letter writer's point, imagine a world where, you could have actually created some interesting new villains and other things. You could have played with some of the personalities and the stereotypes of some of the characters. The Angel was always kind of an elitist in some ways, or at least, presented you a rich father, everything else. And, what if he's there and, he sees all these bum mutants coming in and he's like, man, I was always working really hard to try and save, mutants' lives and other things. And I was part of the original X-Men. Now all these upstarts are in here claiming they are, just as good as the rest. I mean, you could have done interesting things with classic characters where you have some new villains form, new factions, new beliefs on what a true mutant is versus a not a true mutant. I mean, there's so much you could have done. And I think it was a big opportunity that was missed. Anyway, thank you very much for that. How about you guys? Do you think, did the X-Men, put it this way, I talk about how much I dislike the Krakoa era. Okay. So what would have been better? What would you have done? How would you have made this whole thing? Let's say, Hickman basically did the same thing. Instead of picking up the phone and calling Teeny Howard, he called you. And now you're in the X office and you're writing it. How would you have made it memorable? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And thanks for listening.